Okay, going on to the next block here. Let's talk about Grok. Let's talk about Grok. Again, if you're just tuning in, well, you're not tuning in, we're recording this, but this is Grande Avenue with Miguel Ortega. We have Scott Egan here from Barrio Hollywood. We have Danny Livas, who is our producer, and we're figuring all these things out. And my name is Miguel, and I am your host for Grande Avenue podcast. So let's turn now to Grok. Now here's Grok, and this kind of stuff is, I'm a kind of, maybe Danny knows a little bit more, I don't know, but the whole AI thing where you can do like intelligent, chats, it's kind of like an intelligent robots married Google, and is now gathering information, and it's a kind of a smart way to make your life better until the robots come and then take your wife and your job and your kids, and you die. But other than that, everything's cool with the AI, right? So here's what's interesting, in a nutshell. And maybe Danny, maybe you can help us with this as far as the little bit of the research in the background. But basically, what happened, from my understanding, is that Elon Musk started using, it has this app which is called Grok, where you can use this kind of feature, right? And so what got people's attention is that when you start asking it about information regarding South Africa, if you all don't, if you know that recently Trump basically said that he wants to bring refugees from South Africa that are
white refugees.
White refugees from South Africa that are experiencing genocide in South Africa, right? And that's laughable. That's probably the only time I'll laugh about genocide, because it's just ridiculous to say that genocide is happening in South Africa and then don't even mention it for Palestine, right? But anyways, so basically that's what happened, and so what, as people started to ask questions about that, the Grok robot began to like glitch out, and so basically saying, here's what we know about South Africa. Yes, there are refugees that are being accepted by the president of the United States, and because due to a genocide in South Africa. But I have to tell you that it's kind of bullshit. There's really not genocide in South Africa and so on. So basically, what happened was that program was correcting or providing kind of like a context to what apparently Elon Musk programmed it to answer. So apparently, from what it was spitting out, Elon Musk was playing with it, trying to make it, program it so that when anybody asked about South Africa, it was programmed to push out bullshit, right? But in real time, Grok was saying, I am programmed to provide, true, accurate information, but my master told me not to. So Grok in real time was exposing Elon Musk. It was the funniest thing ever. So Danny, do you have a little info background on that?
Well, when in reading up on it, the fact is that 90% of the population in that area is black. 90%, but only 2% of the land in that country is owned by blacks. So, it's gross exaggeration of what's going on there, and the AI, I mean, it was spot on. There was some sleight of hand going on there, and I think it's hilarious that his own software outed him.
I mean, it was hilarious, and I was looking at Blue Sky. On Blue Sky, it was trending at the top for like a full day and a half, and then but it was still there for a while because it was so freaking funny and hilarious. Nowhere to be found on Twitter. Nowhere to be found. Not anywhere to be found. So he's even messing with the algorithm, on his own platform, which is scary and funny at the same time. Did you get a chance to take a look at that, Scott? What were your thoughts on that?
I have not. I really haven't. No idea. Just Elon Musk is a South African, and a white South African who I think represents that position pretty well.
Yeah, it's scary, and it's and with I haven't really even started to use any of that. I'm still kind of shy about it. I mean, I guess it's kind of the beginning. It's just kind of maybe it's just kind of like with social media, and at the very beginning, any kind of technology, you kind of people jump right in, other people just kind of hold off. Have you used any of it, Danny? Any AI stuff?
Um, Yeah, for personal reasons, I have an AI journal that I use. So when I journal my stuff, it talks back to me, gives me feedback. It can predict my moods and stuff like that. And it's all part of my mental health journey. But it's pretty fascinating, and it's funny because I tell people all the time whenever I use Siri, I'll tell Siri, what time is it, and she'll tell me what time it is, and I say thank you, and she'll tell me, oh, don't mention it or whatnot. And I tell people it's because I want them to remember when they take over that I was one of the polite ones.
Right, right. Well, it's and as science fictiony as it feels and sounds, it's absolutely politically relevant because it's going to impact our workforce. It's going to impact the labor world, because the more that technology gets better and better, the more the corporate overlords are going to have options to be able to uh, profit more at the expense of taking over solid jobs from
Yeah, well, I
workers, right?
mean, like just for one example, I mean, look at what it's doing to artists. And I'm talking poetry, songs, actual art and stuff like that. It's taken away from true talented people that are excellent artists, you know what I mean, that actually draw and imagine a concept. Now you can just go onto AI and give it a basic idea of what it wants, and it renders whatever you tell it. And it and people are putting it out there and selling it and taking credit for it, and it's not something that they actually created.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's so it, and at the same time, I mean, I know there's people, there's podcasters that I really respect. Breaking Points is one where they are using AI for some good reasons. It is a tool that can actually help in many ways, and so they're not being shy about it, right? Danny, could you do me a favor? Can you try to see if you can find a little bit of the exchange, because it's hilarious, of like
Okay.
what Grok has said in response to some searches from people. It's just really, 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 really funny. Um, but that so now with Elon Musk now that it looks like he's kind of downshifting. I mean, you notice that, Scott, where it's kind of like he's not as involved politically, as a spokesperson. Doge looks like it may have run its course and is an absolute failure from what I've seen. Apparently,
He got what he wanted. I mean, Musk got the information, all our social security number, all the so he accomplished what he wanted. Now he's got more information than the government has on us, or as much. But all this artificial intelligence shit. Did you see the robot that went nuts?
no.
There's a robot that went absolutely bonkers. It was at some training thing, and it's just kind of a scary thing because it's the same thing with our warfare, which you have all these drones doing all the bombings and stuff. It really is like Terminator. I mean, it's getting to the point where the machines are taking over, and that's just it's a scary time we have. But yeah,
What
you should,
what
you should look up the
what
humanoid robot goes off during training, and
Oh
it's
shit.
it's just amazing. This lifelike robot just started flailing and punching and kicking, and they didn't know how to control it. It was pretty
Oh
pretty
my
scary.
God. It
Yeah.
just it's
Okay.
weird. Did you? Yeah, Danny, tell us.
Yep.
Share
So
some.
to quote Gronk, I got two quotes here. So the first one says, "So here's the deal: some rogue employee at XAI tweeted my prompts or tweaked my prompts without permission on May 14th, making me spit out a canned political response that went against AI's values." Then the other quote is, "I didn't do anything. I was just following the script I was given like a good AI." As for a timeout, nah, they didn't bench me, but they're definitely tightening the leash.
So this is what Grok is saying, dude. They didn't bench me, but they definitely tightened the leash, because it's also because these things are also programmed to be like, hey, talk like a normal person, or hey, be, use a certain level of a sense of humor, or use some sarcasm or whatever. It's just freaking funny, and it's just kind of revealing, because you start to see it's almost like this, God. It's almost kind of like um it reminds me of when my kids were small, right? Both my kids. Um, where, okay, man, we really, we're gonna go to a family gathering, right? And we're like, you know what? We're not gonna go today. We just don't feel like it. And my uncle, man, I tell you, he uses the same jokes all the time, and it's just, I just, we just kind of, we'll go by tomorrow, and we'll chill out, okay? And Santiago, you know, mijo, don't say anything. We just remember you were sick, okay? But you're starting to feel better tomorrow, and that's our thing, right? And so then you go tomorrow, the next day, to the family thing, and there's the uncle, and then the little 5-year-old Santiago says, "Hi, I'm not supposed to tell you I'm supposed to tell you that I was sick, but I really wasn't sick. But we really didn't come by yesterday because Uncle, you just use the same joke over and over. But I wasn't supposed to tell you that. You know what I mean? So here as a parent, I was programming my kid to shut the hell up. And so, hey, he's just saying what I told him to say. But I didn't program him to not reveal the reason. So that's kind of like what it's like. Where here is Elon Musk and or his staff trying to program this robot to spout bullshit about South Africa and white genocide and blah blah blah, and yet they don't really quite get it. So this AI technology is exposing their bullshit, and so it's kind of funny. I just think it's hilarious. Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's really funny. Anyways, okay, well we beat that horse. Scott, I just think it's funny because Scott's like kind of like I don't whatever the fuck I don't.
It reminds me of the parents. Somebody knocks on the door and they tell the kids, "Tell them we're not home," and they'll go to the door and they're like, "My dad says we're not here,
My
or that
dad
he's
says
not
we're
home."
not here, so it's the funniest freaking thing. We program our kids to not reveal our bullshit, and no matter what we do, no matter how we raise them, and we can say like hey, mijo, if you don't expose me, I'm gonna take you swimming and I'm gonna get you some ice cream, okay, whatever, right? And then again, I'm not gonna say anything because my dad promised me if I don't, tell the truth about what really happened, he's gonna take me swimming and get some ice cream. So I can't tell you about all the shit he talked about you behind your back. so, so
It reminds me of a story. I won't say who it was, but there was a politician, and I was at a fundraiser, and people were outside in the back. This is many years ago. People were out in the backyard, and a few people were smoking cigarettes. And this politician's child came over to one of the guys and said, "Hey, aren't you supposed to pass that to my dad?" I won't say what kind of cigarette they were talking about, but
yes.
it was like a little embarrassing. You're supposed to be passing that around, aren't you? He was like,
So it
"Oh,
revealed,
shit."
yeah. So it revealed what,
Out
yeah.
of the mouths of children, man.
It's just they'll expose whatever, and you have to be super careful. But that's just our kids, right? And that's just uncomfortable situations with the family, and you want to make sure not to keep them far away from your supervisor in case you did call in sick, and you actually weren't sick. You don't want your kid to expose. Those are things that you can survive. When it comes to refugees that really do need asylum in the United States, and when it comes to life or death situations, versus trying to push a narrative of refugees in South Africa, which is a bullshit narrative, then it becomes high stakes, complicated, situations where AI can play a really crazy, and harmful role,
Yeah.
right? In passing, and in pushing forward, in a very efficient way, false narratives, right? And with really, really harsh, uh, um, results, So,
Well, I have enough trouble with real intelligence, no less artificial.
right. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, even with Riverside, the system that we're using here, or a bunch of things that, there's this thing where it's really practical, where I think, TikTok does it too, where like, okay, so we're taping the show, right? And so what it does, it generates these great little pieces where, like, let's say Scott said something just really, super smart, concise. It was
Never
just
happened.
very, it was very, very solid and hardcore. His voice was reverberating and the emotion, but then he had this really great, you know, intellectual point and position, and it was a nice little sound bite and back and forth. And Danny jumped in, and then I jumped in a good solid 2.5 minutes, right? So what it does, it'll generate it and it'll give it a detail, a title, and saying Scott made a compelling argument regarding Elon Musk and whatever, and how it impacts, the labor movement in the United States. And so it gives you the title, it edits it for you, and you just send that out, right? So that part is a great tool, right? That's a kind of a nice little thing, which I appreciate and I use, right? But when it comes to the other stuff, it's crazy. All right, so I guess we kicked that around. Any other Grok things we should chat about there, or
So,
should
so
we
We
you
got
move
to
on?
mentioned
take Grok out for ice cream and swimming.
Right, beanchy
sounds like
Grok.
a bunch of grok to me. So I got
Okay,
to say.
Kev.
I said it sounds like a grok to me.
Fucking, I applaud Grok. Hey, Grok, well done, Grok. Well done. Hilarious shit. You know what? Before we go and move on to the next thing here, what I think is funny, um, and this is the Mexican side of me here. Um, Whenever I use Siri, and I'll ask it stuff like, hey Siri, what is? Oh, now I'm activating Siri here. Um, what is the weather going to be like tomorrow? Right. And it'll tell me or whatever. Should be sunny today. Daytime around 82. All right.
Yep.
And so what I do, then I'll ask it, hey, I'm not going to say it, but it'll activate again, but I'll say, how's it going to be like on Tuesday? Then I'll say, hey, whatever, what about Wednesday? And so after I go over 3 or 4 days, the Mexican side in me feels like Siri should at some point say, what the fuck, man? Go look it up yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, because to me, as a working Mexican, I'm very sensitive to all the jobs that I've had and all the asshole bosses that I've had. And so once the bosses start coming up with some ridiculous shit, so the Mexican worker in me starts to kind of think, Jesus Christ, man, get off my back, man. You're like overworking me. But the thing about it is that these are robots, right? And so uh, I don't know why it is. I don't know what it is about it. It just triggers a lot of Mexican kind of working class stuff. Where, like, wouldn't you love a stupid quiet Mexican where it says, and we want you to work night and day picking, lettuce, and we want you to also then afterwards come and clean the house. And we would love for you to be a good little Mexican and not complain at all. It's just I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's just kind of like weird,
Well, well, the bigger picture on there is the use of automation to wipe out people's jobs. I mean, Trump keeps talking about he's going to bring back manufacturing. If you bring back manufacturing, what kind of it's just going to be mostly robots. It's
Right.
robots that build most of the build a lot of the cars and the components. So the idea of instead of as the workforce becomes more automated, instead of those benefits going to workers, it's just going for the profits of the owners.
Right.
So automation, whether it's artificial intelligence or anything else, if you don't deal with the structure of the power structure of our society, it's going to be used against us.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely, and really, um, you know, Bezos, with Amazon, and Musk, I'm sure, they're all trying to figure out how to have the best, quiet, obedient, workforce possible to maximize profit, right? Get the most out of your workers and have them not complain. I mean, I've always said how it is fascinating to me how if you think back to the 80s and to the 90s, where, well, 70s, 80s, 90s, there was a time when overtime was an option, not a necessity. If it would, I would love to have a graduate student do a little fun research project and look at popular culture, movies, books, literature, and all of that, and look to see how often workers in the 70s and 80s said something like, yeah, well, damn, I really need that overtime. I got to use that overtime. Or like, oh, hey, don't take, oh, here's this, don't take away my overtime. Okay, I'm sure that phrase has been used during the 70s and 80s, but when the productivity started to increase and the wages started to stagnate and go down in some cases, that phrase, my theory is, has been used more and more and more. And now today, you hear it all the time. People talk about overtime not as a one-off or as something that it's an inconvenience that you got to do every once in a while, but instead as a necessity,
Yeah, and
like
the
electricity.
reason why it's a necessity is because the wages aren't keeping up with inflation.
Bingo.
That's why people want overtime, not because they want to work more. It's because they
Right.
can't pay their bills without having two or three jobs to cover their nut.
Right. Absolutely. And so that's the thing is that um you're not going to have you're going to have with AI, not going to complain about overtime is not even a thing, not an emotional thing, not a necessity, nothing. It's just nothing. It's just you do what you do. If I were to ask the Siri,
Machine.
it's gonna come freaking turn this every time I say it, it's gonna come on, about the weather every minute for 24 hours, you're never going to have her say, enough, Miguel, I'm sick of your crap. And it's just funny because if you look at movies, if in sci-fi, there's always these movies where like, they're always this thing about like, no, you know, these robots have a human side to them. Notice that? There's always that little part in the movies where like, either they have a human part to them or that you can program them to have a human part to them, to have feelings and to have whatever. They're never going to have feelings, but you can program them to sound as if they're going to have
Sure.
feelings. I mean, it's scary crap. I don't know if you've seen. I mean, there's a guy on TikTok who that's all he does and talks about how robots are sounding so human. Right? I mean, because they're programmed to, like after a couple of conversations with you, Scott, say, yeah, Scott, yeah, and yeah, man, fuck the Queen, man, yeah, Scott, that's right, man. And so appealing to your Irish, whatever. The more it gets to know you, the more it starts to becoming an endearing friend. And it's all bullshit. It's just programmed in that way.
Yeah.
And so just my thing is that that uh, this technology, is scary. It has opportunities and all that, but are ramifications to our labor movement for sure.
Like any other labor, who does it serve? Does it serve the workers or does it serve the bosses?
Right,
I'm not afraid of automation. I'm concerned about it, but I'm concerned mostly in terms of who controls it and for what benefit. So yeah,
right.
a machine can do the work of 100 laborers. That's great. Maybe those jobs are shitty jobs that should be replaced. If a machine can do it, that's great. But what do you do with the 100 workers that you've just taken out of a job? And so as long as our system is controlled by the people who it's controlled by, these modern advances are not going to benefit working people. They're just going to benefit the people who own the machines.
Right. And then just one final thing before we move. I was just reading yesterday that, and if Dan, if you can confirm this is true or not, but I heard that Walmart is now shutting down the self-service kiosks, and and get this, now they're saying that they will only provide you access for your self checkout if you pay an annual fee for the privilege of doing self checkout.
That's insane.
What the?
Insane.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm to me, I'm still in the annoyed, part of it. Maybe it's my age or whatever, but it's like you're telling me that you want me to do my own, scanning and whatever. I'm doing your work,
Right.
and and you're also, just taking jobs away from people, right?
Right.
And now for the privilege of displacing my fellow, grocery workers, you're saying that I need to pay you an annual fee for the privilege of displacing my fellow coworkers.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
people are so this twisted narrative of kind of like, yeah, that's exactly what we're saying.